Hi, this is Eric and welcome to my video on Python virtual environments. So this video is for, I think, pretty much anybody who wants to know about Python virtual environments. I just learned about them myself recently, and so I'm going to cover basically everything I know. And this video is, for people that just that don't know anything about it, and also probably for myself in like 5 years when I can't remember any of this stuff. So the first thing that I'm going to do is navigate to a folder, and we'll start talking about virtual environments. The first thing I want to do is figure out, to tell you the difference between system Python and your virtual environment. Your system Python is essentially when you install Python on your machine. So right now I'm on a Mac, and the Python itself is installed. There's one version installed. Actually, there's probably a few more, but it's installed in the system directories of the operating system. And if I type in which Python, it will tell me where I'm executing this Python from. So this is kind of interesting. If I type in which Python I get, it's in my user local bin directory. If I type which Python 3, I'm actually getting the version that I installed from the Python website. So this is very interesting. So now I know where when I execute a script, I know where it's being executed from. And I bet if I type in which Python 2, it tells me, okay, there's the version 2.7, and I believe this is where the installer from the Python website installs Python 2. So now I know which. So when I type in my Hello World program, I can type in Python 3, and then I'm going to type in Hello World, and I get Hello World. And that Python 3 is being executed from here because that's the environment I'm in. I'm in the system Python environment, and my system environment has a bunch of things added to it already. So I just want everybody to know this is called System Python because it's installed on the system. Now let me clear the screen and let's see what packages are already installed in the system. To do this we need pip. Now pip is the package manager. I won't really go into it, but it's kind of like, so I'm on a Mac right now, and it's basically Windows Update, and this is how you install libraries from the internet into your Python. It's really nice and convenient. Now if I type in pip3 list, this will list all of the libraries I have now installed on Python, and it gives me the versions too. And so I see so pandas and a few other things installed. And I see PyTest installed. So let me try something else. There's another way to list the contents, and it's by typing pip freeze. And we'll get into this more later, but I'm going to type in pip freeze and let's see what it outputs. It basically outputs the exact same stuff, except it doesn't list pip, and because it's not like it's a needed library for your app, because your program, running your program, it doesn't need to use pip. Pip is just for installing libraries. So this is very interesting. So the format's a little different, and frankly, if I want to see what's installed, I think it's a little bit better because you just it leaves out the stuff you don't care about. So it seems to just leave out pip, and it leaves out setup tools. So this is how we can explore the environment that we're in, no matter what it is. So right now I'm also, of course, I'm in this bash terminal on OS X. So let's go ahead and create our first virtual environment. And the way we do this is pretty simple. We type in Python. I'm going to type in Python 3. So I make sure I force it to use Python 3 here. I'm going to type in M, which it's used for loading modules, I think, into the environment. And our environment right now is the terminal shell. And now the most generic thing I could do is type in venv, which is the command for create a virtual environment. This says, okay, now we're going to give a name to our folder where we're going to put everything. And I should point out, if we don't put a folder, if we like put a dot, it's just going to dump all of the contents into our current folder. So I'm actually going to do that once. and now I'm going to list everything. And this is what we get. This bin folder, hello world, or we get our include folder, lib folder, and then this config file. So, but I don't want that. I'm just going to delete that very quickly. And a quick little tip, I'm using Control L to clear my terminal so quickly. So normally it seems like the process is to put you have a folder for your project, and then you have a folder for your virtual environment. And this actually makes it very easy to not include it in your git ignore. So let's go ahead and go back to my command here. And I'm going to type in the most generic folder you can for virtual environment, and I don't need to really put the trailing slash at the end, but I kind of like to do that these days because it makes it really clear that I'm talking about a folder here and not a file. So I'm going to hit enter, and the virtual environment will be created. So I'm going to hit ls, and what we do is we have a new folder called venv. Now, we're still not in the virtual environment, even though we've created this thing. And so this kind of threw me off at first, because if I type in which Python 3, so we are still using system Python. If I type in my hello world, Python 3, hello world, it's executing with system Python and all the libraries included in that system Python, which are these, right? Gotcha. Now let's go ahead and activate or create our virtual environment. So our shell right here, our shell is now going to use the Python virtual environment. And we do that by the source command. And we're going to go source, and then I type in venv, which is the folder, and then I type in bin, which is the binary folder in there, and they have a file called activate. And I'm going to hit enter in here, and what it's going to do, it's going to create a virtual environment. Now, if I type in which Python 3, what do you think is going to happen? Is it going to do the thing before? So I'm going to hit enter, and look what happens. It finds the Python 3 executable in our virtual environment. This is why it's a virtual environment. Let's try pip list and see what we find. So I get a little error message there, but this is what it lists. It lists pip, and it lists setup tools and nothing else. So this gives me a very, very clean environment for starting my Python app. I don't have all those other libraries automatically included. And let's see. And if I type in pip freeze, let's see what I get. Remember, pip freeze before left out pip and setup tools. And look, there's nothing in there. And look at this. This is kind of interesting. I keep getting this this error to pip install upgrade pip. So if I look in this, I see pip is 9.03, and I can upgrade that to version 10 by typing in, and it even tells me right here, you should upgrade the pip install. And you know what? When I install this, it is not going to install it on my system Python, because I've created a virtual environment in my terminal window. So I'm going to type in install upgrade pip. And now if I go pip list, pip has now been upgraded to version 10. So at this point, anything I install with pip, the package manager, will be installed in this virtual environment folder, and it will not be installed under system Python. So if we go pip freeze, which I really like, and notice how I'm not piping it to the terminal window yet, but we'll get that into a second. There's nothing in there. That's totally awesome. It's a pure thing. So I'm going to go pip install PDF. All right. I just used this the other night. PDF kit, and it installs PDF kit. Now if I type in pip freeze, it puts out the PDF kit, and of course if I type in pip list, it'll type in the pip setup tools on the PDF kit. And now if I have a script that uses PDFkit, it'll be able to find it. And I can continually install in any Python scripts I execute from this command prompt. And notice now I get this little venv thing here. This tells me that I'm in the virtual environment, which is pretty cool. So I develop my app, I run my files from this, everything's fine. This is my environment. Whenever I want to get out of it, let's say I want to get back to System Python, I just type in the word deactivate, I hit enter, and notice the little prompt goes away, and if I type in which Python 3, what do you think is going to happen? I'm back to System Python. And if I type in pip freeze, I've got all these things installed. So why does it matter? I think it matters because if you're executing a application that doesn't use a lot of these, if it doesn't use pluggy, peewee, pytest, you don't necessarily want those environment. Just in case there is some conflict, there probably won't be, but you generally want a development environment that only uses the libraries that you're using and nothing extra. I can also think about this if I had 1 million virtual machines running a Python program, and I had to install Python in every single one, and each set of libraries cost 200 megs or was 200 megs large, I could fill up my hard drive space with unneeded libraries. But if I could install a Python script on every single VM with just the one library it needed versus like everything in my system library, then I've saved a lot of hard drive space. So I want to talk about the source command right here, because it's not like I'm a complete idiot, but I keep on typing like activate, venv, bin. I don't know what's wrong with me, because this is obviously ridiculous. And it's not like I don't even know what source means. So here's what source means. Source takes a file and it loads the environmental variables from the file being sourced into your environment. Here's a quick example. If I type in, there's files when you launch the terminal. One of them is bash profile. Let's just talk really quickly about what source does. It basically sources a file. That file is usually it is a configuration file full of environmental variables, and it loads all those variables into the terminal session you're using. So right now I'm in a terminal session. When you load up a terminal, it loads your bash profile config script, and it sources it, which means that it loads all the variables. If I type in ll right now, it says command not found. So what I'm going to do is open up my bash profile using vim, and so I'm going to open this up and I'm going to go to the bottom. And look at this. Look at this path variable. It's getting the Python 2.7. It's got 3.4. I can only assume 3.5 is in here somewhere. There's 3.5. So these are all the environmental variables. This is System Python. It's getting sourced. And so it's already sourcing this other profile. And we're going to go down to the bottom. And actually I happen to have this thing. It's an alias. And it's basically a variable. And it executes this command right here, ls with some extra stuff. So I'm going to save. So what I've done is I've just aliased ll here. And that just means if I type in ll, it's going to run list files with the switches. So I'm going to close and save. Okay, so I've just modified my bash profile. Now I'm going to type in ll. What do you think is going to happen? Okay, I'm going to hit enter. We're going to see what's going to happen. Not found, but I just modified the file. Why didn't it find it? It didn't find it because that file is just sitting on the hard drive. I have not reloaded the entire environmental variables into my terminal. So I'm going to source it. So I'm going to source that bash profile, which basically reloads everything into the environment of my terminal. Now if I type in ll, it's going to run because I've sourced that file, which makes me go, oh, okay, I've sourced this file. What is activate? Let's check it out. So I'm going to type in vim, then the then folder, the bin folder, and activate. So you might think this is a binary file, but since we sourced it, let's investigate. So, and it's a config file that looks a lot like bash profile. And this is why it works. This is why it can set up your terminal as a virtual environment. And if I accidentally edited something, it would be a disaster. So I never want to manually modify this myself, because I'll never get it back to the way it was. So I'm going to make sure I quit this without even the possibility of saving. So there we go. That's why source works. So quick recap. Which Python 3? We're in my system Python. I source. I'm in my project file, so I can type in source venv bin activate. So I get my little command prompt here. I type in which Python 3. Now it says, oh, I'm in the virtual environment. Makes a lot of sense, and I can deactivate to get out of it. Okay, here's the next thing I find pretty interesting. And remember, since I just figured out about virtual environments, I'm kind of in exploratory mode. So we all want Python programming to be fun. So here we go. We have this. So we have our hello world script. We have a virtual environment. You know, we can actually have multiple virtual environments, not going at the same time, but folders in our folder, and we can call it different things. So let's have some fun here. So we can go Python 3m venv, and now we're going to give our name to our virtual environment, and we can do anything we want here. I can call my virtual environment anything I want. In fact, I'm going to call the folder there Planet X, and I'm going to hit enter. And really all that does is it creates this folder called Planet X where my virtual environment is. And if I actually source that, then activate, I get this little Planet X thing. So you could call this like nuclear reactor, you could call it it's, you know, whatever floats your boat. And the neat thing about this is I can go which Python. And oh, it's this one. And if I go pip freeze, just tell me what's in there, and it's empty. And oh, look, it's like brand new again. And so I can install pandas. Let me install pandas. Sorry, pip3 install pandas. So it's installing pandas, and I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be installed with pandas too. So hopefully this won't take forever. And here we go. And I could type in pip freeze now. And I've got all this stuff. NumPy, pandas, datautil, all this stuff. And let's say I have, you know, I could probably test out, if I wanted two different virtual environments in my program, I could test different settings easily with my running app just by switching from environment to environment. And I can type in my hello world program, probably works just fine. And so let's deactivate this virtual environment. And I can go ahead, and if I want, hey, I can switch back to my other one. And which Python. So there we go. This allows me to have as many virtual environments as I want, and I can switch around them to try out different settings. Saving your requirements to recreate your virtual environment. So the way this works is you have to be, let's see if I go pip freeze, let's see how much stuff we have. We don't really only a PDF kit. Let me switch to the other one very fast. So. All right, if I type pip freeze, I get the packages that are installed. And actually, let me just install this really fast, just so I don't get this pip upgrade message. And now we're here. Now the way you'll see pip freeze used on the internet is that you're piping stuff. So if I type pip freeze and I pipe it to a file, I could type it to any file I want. I could type it to whatever .txt. I don't even have to put an extension. It'll pipe it to a text file. But a lot of people use the word requirements and .txt. And all this does is it will create a text file on my hard drive with this contents dumped into it. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to list things, and I see a requirements.txt. Remember, there's nothing magical about this .txt. I don't even have to give an extension on this. And if I open up my requirements file, I see that this is the contents. So what I'm going to do here is, if I'm putting this in a source, in a repo, if this was my project, I would commit my hello world, I would commit my requirements.txt, and I wouldn't commit my folders full of stuff, because those are big. And I can recreate my virtual environment. In this case, it's going to the requirements for Planet X. And actually, you know what? Since I've got two different, I've actually got two different environments going at the same time. I would if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to go. I'm just going to let myself know that Planet X requirements is actually in that text file. And now I can have a text file for this other venv that says venv-requirements. And if I have another one, I could have it, nuclear reactor-requirements, as many as I want. And I'll just delete the requirements there. Okay, so I just said that we have a requirements file. So we have our Planet X requirements, which has stuff in it. And I just said that you don't actually need to commit your virtual environment to your Git repo. So let's actually experiment with this and nuke it. The first thing I noticed that I'm still in my virtual environment, so let's get rid of this. Or not get rid, but let's deactivate it. And so what I'm going to do is rm. I'm going to recursively delete my Planet X requirements. My Planet X environment. It's gone. And I'm going to get rid of my... Actually, I'm not going to get rid of the other one yet. And now if I see what's in here, I have just a couple files here. My venv virtual environment here didn't have all the stuff of Planet X. So I want to recreate my Planet X virtual environment. And I know it was in it because I put them in that file. So here's the magic command, let's say to recreate that virtual environment. Step 1, create a new blank virtual environment. So Python 3-m and the venv command. And now, before I call it Planet X, I don't even have to call it Planet X again. I could call it something else. I don't want to confuse people, so I'm just going to call it Planet X again. And I'm going to hit Enter, and I'm going to get a new virtual environment with Planet X as the root folder name. And now we have a folder called Planet X, and we have this requirements file. So the next thing I want to do, and this is extremely important, that I source the Planet X and activate it again. And now I've got my terminal that says Planet X. And let's see what's in it. Oh, it's like brand new. There's nothing There's nothing in it. Nothing at all. In fact, if I just type pip list, which will absolutely give me everything, I just see pip and setup truths, and I'm like, hey, how do I, I need to recreate my virtual environment. Oh, well, I do have my list of requirements. This Planet X requirements file, and remember it has all that stuff. And so the way we can actually install over those in one go without manually going pip install numpy, pip install panth. We don't have to do that. We have to use the magic command pip 3 install. We use this -r thing, and so this is the switch, and if we do that, we could give it a file. And in this case, so let's look at this. Pip3 install, -r means it's expecting a file full of requirements, which it's going to install all in one go. Now, the -r is the shorthand, the longhand is actually --requirements, which it does the same thing, -r is a little faster to type. And if I type in this, we're going to watch the all of this getting installed into our, hold on, it's actually requirement. And it's just going to go through and install everything. So if I had like 20 libraries, this is pretty nice that it will just install everything. And hopefully it'll install the right versions. And now if I go pip list, let's see what we got. It's all installed. I've just recreated a virtual environment using a requirements file. Okay, here's a quick gotcha, which of course I've done. Let's say I deactivate this, and I go and I create my new virtual environment. So I go like Python 3-m-venv, and then I have my folder name here. And then I create my thing, and then I immediately go Python or pip install. It's important to remember that right now I'm in the system Python environment. So if I type in pip install the requirements, so if I type in pip install -r and then I put my Planet X requirements, it will install all of that into my current environment, which is my system environment. So you really have to make sure you're in the environment you want to install everything into. Hence, I use that which Python if I ever forget where I am. So here's another little pro tip. I find it useful to have multiple windows open. I can open up. I can have another window in a different color, and let's go ahead, and I can go ahead and have execute. Let's see, I want to do this, so I can go Python 3 hello world and execute hello world up here, and I'm going to source my Planet X. Now I'm in the Planet X environment, and in this other window I can verify that, and I can type in Python 3 hello world, and I can have two different windows with two different environments executing the same file. All right, last but not least, so we have our Python environment with our virtual environment and our folder structure. Now, let me just show you the folder structure that I've kind of I'm going to go with myself, and it's basically this. I'm going to have if I type in pwd, so hello would be my root directory. That's going to be my project name. And I obviously have my virtual environment in there called whatever I want, venv, Planet X, but it's going to be a folder, and that's going to have all of the files from my virtual environment. And then lately I've been putting my my source code in a src directory, but you can call this whatever you want, and tests go in a test directory, but you could call that whatever you want. So it kind of helped get things straight. And if you're using Git, you have so if I'm committing this to a repo, I definitely want to do my hello world. I definitely want to do my requirements file, and in this case, I'm not going to commit my big huge venv or my virtual environments. So how do we prevent Git from wanting to commit the virtual environments? We just exclude that using a git ignore. So let me copy over a git ignore into my folder. And here's the way I do it. So what I like to do is I like to have my git ignore for whatever language I'm doing. And I just create a text file, in this case, my python.gitignore.txt. And let me just open this up. And if I type in my python gitignore, I'll just show you what's in there. And there's all kinds of stuff. A lot of stuff that I don't really, that I'm still experimenting with. I'll have this on my Git repo, so you can grab it. But I think in there I'm excluding. You can ignore files. Like here, and a lot of the vast majority is just copied from random stuff on GitHub. You know, like I'll just Google Python git ignore, and every time I find something that needs to be ignored, I'll add it. So, but here we go. Here's where I ignore the venv folder, and let's go ahead. And so the venv folder is clearly being ignored here. So I'm going to actually X out of this, and I'm going to rename this folder. This file to just .git ignore. And now if I go lsla, you'll see I have a new git ignore here. And I'm going to git init, a new repo. So I'm in my hello directory, which is good. Git init. Great, I've got this, and I can go git status, and it tells me what's going on here. Okay, I'm not seeing Planet X, and I don't know why. Okay, if I type in, I'm just going to rename the git ignore briefly my git ignore. I'm going to type in git status. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like my git ignore is ignoring Planet X2 for some reason, even though I don't have it listed. I don't know. But you could clearly see that my git ignore is ignoring these two virtual environments. It must be because it's ignoring all of the. It's probably because you can't commit empty folders to Git, and the git ignore is ignoring all the files inside the Planet X folder. Therefore, this isn't showing up because I'm already excluding everything in there. That has to be what's happening. So I'm going to rename my git ignore back, if I can remember what I called it. Okay, and I'm going to go .git ignore, and I type in git status, and I'm down to this Planet X requirements, hello world, and my git ignore. I actually like committing my git ignore. I guess if I was working with lots of other people, I wouldn't include the git ignore. And yeah, so I would just git add all git status. This looks good, and then git commit. This will open up a nano window, and I would go initial commit, and then I hit Control X, and then I hit Y for yes, and then I hit enter, and this saves it. Now if I hit git status, it's all going to be clean. Alright, this might have been a long video, but I wanted to go in detail over everything, and I mean everybody should know everything in this video. I think it's really important with this kind of complex flow to create your own how-to file, which is exactly what I did. because otherwise I wouldn't be able to follow along. So see, I create my own how-to, which you probably should too. And some of the stuff is I've typed out. Some of the other stuff is I've copied from Stack Overflow, Reddit, anywhere on the internet. So we've covered virtual environments, what source means, how to have multiple virtual environments, how to get commit everything, your commits file, how to recreate a virtual environment using your requirements file, and the text editor I was using is venv, so that's a very good tool to use, especially if you're editing like hidden dot files. I find that really useful, though. You could use TextEdit if you really want. And anyway, I hope you learned something. If you like this video, say hi in the comments, or if you have any problems, just ask it in the comments. And if you need any other videos, let me know. Please like and subscribe to the channel so I can be inspired to do more of these. And I hope this helped you out. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.